perfect mess is my perfect mess. Perfect mess is my perfect mess.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Perfect Mess Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Molina, and this is episode 29. Hey, this is going to be another one of those short ones that we're going to get into, and I just wanted to touch bases because I feel like it's a good time to touch on this right now because we're still at the early beginning, the early stages of this year of 2021. I know it is March, but I had someone ask me about what I do with minimalism and whatnot, and because they heard me talk about that, and I don't think I've touched on that enough. So I wanted to give you guys an episode where I discuss how I approached my new life, moving forward after my divorce and becoming single and becoming a father who's having to learn to do it by himself with one income, and really just adjust my life according to my current circumstances. And so I'm going to share that with you guys today. And hopefully this will help some of you guys to maybe kick off your year by getting you out of the red, maybe getting you to simplify your life to where you can start to move and do things that you really want to do with your life, that maybe some things that are a lot more important. All right. So off top, I'm going to introduce you to this book. Now, I came across this book because I was watching a documentary on Netflix about minimalism. All right. And this right here is the book. If you are on YouTube, you can see this. It is called Minimalism, Live a Meaningful Life. And the authors are Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. These two, they have a website as well. It's called theminimalist.com. This book I purchased off of their website once I saw the documentary. The documentary actually, it sold me, but I'm a reader. You guys know by now, if you're a fan of this podcast, you know I read a lot. So I bought the book and I did, man, you could see if you're on YouTube, again, I highlighted so many things in this book. I'm actually going to reread it again here pretty soon. But this book is something that if you are trying to simplify your life, maybe declutter your life, not just physically like in your closet, in your home, I'm talking about financially and whatnot, this is a really good book to pick up. And if you're listening to this episode and this really hits home for you, I think it's something that it should be a no-brainer. This is something that you should pick up right away. It is a very short book. It's I'm looking at it's 121 pages. You should be able to read this thing in a day or two. All right. Unless you're like me, when I first started reading, you fall asleep after the first 5, 6, 7 pages. But yeah, this is a very easy book to read. I would suggest you highlight a bunch of stuff because that's how I got a bunch of ideas of how to get my life under control and move forward and make my life really simple so I could focus on the things that were the most important to me. Okay. So with that being said, again, this is the book. It's called Minimalism, Live a Meaningful Life. And the authors are Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. I will put a link in the description of this podcast. So if you want to buy the book, you can buy it. I believe I bought it on, I want to say Amazon or their website. I believe it's available on both. So either way, I'll link you up so you can take a look at it. Before we jump into it, make sure to follow me on Instagram. It's Ray Molina, and the podcast is The Perfect Mess Pod. My website is raymolina.com. As always, you can buy merchandise. You can support the podcast there. For those of you who want to help and want to donate, whatever amount of money you want to donate, I appreciate it. You don't have to donate to listen to this thing. I appreciate when you guys share it, when you review it, when you give it a rating. That's enough for me. But if you would like to donate, I use Cash App, and that is the easiest way to donate to the podcast. And my Cash App is $ It's Ray Molina. All right. So let's move forward. So the goal of minimalism is to declutter your life, right? It's not just a physical form, but financially as well. So realizing like you don't need 5 of this and 10 of this and 15 of that. And what I noticed in my life when I was done reading the book, when I was done with the documentary, is I had so many things that didn't even need. What I mean by that is, so I'm a hoodie guy. I love to wear hoodies. When I exercise at night, I go running, or just when I'm out at night, I like to wear hoodies. I prefer those over jackets. But I had close to 20 hoodies. I had 7 jackets, and I just realized I didn't need all this stuff. Half those jackets I never even wore, and the hoodies I had maybe 3 or 4 that were my favorite, and the rest, I liked them. And I figured, hey, I'll wear them someday, but I wasn't wearing them. So I started looking at that. I started looking through my drawers, and I realized, man, I got T-shirts in there I never wore, and I had shoes that I never wore. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wear these dress shoes one day when I wear that suit, or I'm gonna wear these tennis shoes that I bought when I got the perfect outfit. And you know what? Those days never came. They were just sitting in my closet, taking up space. And that's the story of so many things that I was carrying around for years, prior to being married, during my marriage, and after my marriage. That's what was going on. I was holding on to so many things because, hey, one day I'm going to use it, right? But what you don't realize is every time you make a move, or every time you try to do something, you have all these things, all this baggage you're carrying around, okay? And what that does is that translates from the physical form, and then you start looking at your bills, you start looking at your debt, and you realize you are doing the same thing with your money, all right? You've now put yourself in debt. You've got this bill, you've got that bill, you got this, you got bills everywhere, and everything's scattered instead of being centered to where it's more manageable for you. And that's where I was. That's where I was struggling. So watching this documentary, reading this book, it really made me focus on my current situation back in 2017. All right. I also had 2 cars. I had my current car, and I used to have a GMC Envoy, which is a mid-size SUV. Now, I kept it because I wanted to have an SUV. But what I didn't realize was, looking through my bills, I realized, I'm paying another $120 a month for another car for insurance. Okay? I'm paying to gas up this car and drive this thing. And when I don't drive it, I just put $50 in that one, and now I'm driving the little car. Now I got to gas that one up. So I'm putting money all over when I don't need to. And do I really need the SUV? Do I use it that much? And to tell you the truth, I didn't. So I started looking at things like that and started saying, okay, I can downsize a lot of things in my life and make it easier. Okay. My biggest thing was I'm back to one income now. So I needed to adjust my life. Now, you may be married and maybe still trying to figure this out. Maybe you have 2 incomes. Maybe you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend that you live with, and you guys are totally fine, and you guys have 2 incomes and you're doing great. Maybe that's the case, but maybe you're still dealing with a lot of clutter and whatnot. You can still make this work for you. Trust me. But you guys both have to be on board. And what I mean by that is it can't be one person's on board to try to minimalize things and the other person's like, no. Because what you're going to do is you're going to go to get rid of stuff. And that person, when they come home, they're going to grab it from outside or wherever you took it, and they're going to bring it back in, and they're going to say, why did you get rid of this? So if you are in a relationship, both people have to be on board with this newfound lifestyle that you're trying to pursue, okay? Or it's not going to work, all right? So here's the thing. I got a Costco card. Most of you guys probably have a Costco card, or Sam's Club, wherever you're living at. It's like going into Costco, right? We go into Costco, and maybe we don't need that huge box of whatever it is. Let's say cereal. You need a box or 2 of cereal, but they sell the mega box. All right. Maybe you need some toilet paper, but they sell the huge toilet paper roll bag. That's kind of what we do with our lives. We get all the excess when we only need certain stuff to get us by. All right. So dealing with that and looking at it that way, that's what my life was. My life was basically like Costco. I was getting all kinds of stuff and just kind of holding on to it, thinking, okay, at some point I'm going to need it. Now, don't get me wrong. I know we're in a pandemic, or we're starting to come out of a pandemic. And I know it's very smart to have a stockpile of certain things, necessities. I think we all learned that because when this pandemic first kicked off, people were panicking. I'm not talking about having a surplus of things in case we have a situation like we had this whole last year. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about under normal circumstances, having stuff that is so ridiculous that we're holding on to that we just got to get rid of, that it doesn't make any sense for us to carry around. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about. Don't get those two things confused. All right. So now here's the thing. Everything that I'm about to talk to you about right now is only if you are looking to simplify and declutter your life, all right? Don't do any of these things if you're not trying to do that. If you're listening right now and you just like listening to the podcast, cool. Now, if you're listening and you want to declutter your life, you want to change things, you're trying to simplify your life because everything is so complicated. Your bills are crazy. Your home has stuff in every corner of the house and you're going crazy. And odds are the inside of your car probably looks the same. All right. And that's frustrating. I know. Okay. So here's the thing. Consolidating bills. All right. What I started looking at was I have to get out of debt. That was a big thing for me. I had to get out of debt. Okay. I didn't have a huge debt, but I had debt. And to be honest with you, my credit was probably at a 525 when I started doing this. I'm close to 800 now. So this works. I promise you it works. What I started doing was I literally started chipping away at all my debt, and I started making a series of frequent small payments. Okay. So let's say I have a car note. My car note is $300 a month. I would start making payments regularly. I'll go in, hey, throw 20 here, throw 30 here, throw 15 there, boom, on top of my car payment. Now, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, and I know a lot of us are pinching pennies right now. I get it. I know what's going on in the world. We're waiting on stimulus checks. We're waiting on, EDD. I get it. I know how things are right now. But what I'm saying is, you hear what I told you was small increments, okay? Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, okay? You paid $300 on your car payment, and then you threw another 10 at it, threw another 20 at it. It doesn't sound like a lot. You're like, that doesn't make any sense. Trust me, if you do this over a steady period of time, it starts to make a difference. Your bills will come down. I did that with my credit card. I did that with my car note. I did that with my cell phone bill. I started doing that with everything. Anything that I had, any bills that I maybe hadn't paid, and I was like, I was worried they were going to go to collection, I just started chipping away. And you know what that does too? Creditors stop calling you. You know why? Because they're getting 20 here, they're getting 30 here, they're getting 10 here, they're getting 15. They just stop calling you because they see that you're making an effort to clear your debt. It works. I promise you it works. All right. The other thing was I went from 2 cars to 1. I told you I was paying $120 more on top of my other car for a car insurance for a car that I maybe drove once a week. Got rid of the car. I put it up online. I sold it. Got rid of it. Got rid of the extra insurance payment and dealing with gas and whatnot. So I got rid of that. Okay, so that cleared up some more money for me. And then I stopped paying for apps and stuff that I had on my phone and on my laptop. There was a lot of stuff that I was paying for, apps that weren't necessary for me to have, that I was paying monthly for, or that I was buying that I just didn't need. So a lot of us, we have iPhones or whatever phone you use. I know everybody's real particular about their cell phones these days, but whatever phone you use, we all have apps, right? Go through your phone and start looking at some of these apps that maybe you're paying monthly fees for. Odds are you probably don't need a lot of them. All right. So that's what I did. I started going through my phone. I'm like, I don't need this app. I haven't used that app, because it'll tell you if you go to your settings and check the apps, it'll tell you the last time you used your app. And let's be honest, if it's been a few months since you've used that app, you probably don't need it. All right. So that's another way to free up some money. Then investing. Okay. So investing was a new thing for me. All right. I had never, to be honest with you, man, I never really made enough money to invest a bunch of money and put money aside and do all these things. So what I started doing was I started using apps. I used an app called Acorn. Acorn is an app that basically uses the rounding up method, which anytime you spend money throughout the day, it keeps track of where you're spending money because it's connected to your bank account. So if you put gas, if you go to the supermarket, if you buy lunch, whatever it is you do, and at the end of the day, it goes through everything. And if you paid $7.33 for something, $5.29 for something, $1.53 for something, it takes the change and it rounds it up to $1. Okay, so if you paid $1.50 for something, it rounds it up to $2 and it takes that 50 cents and it puts it into an account, savings. But it does that for all your charges. So if you paid 99 cents for something, it's going to round it up to $1 and take that penny and put it somewhere. Sounds like no big deal, right? Sounds like, okay, that's a joke. It's not gonna add up. It does add up. You're gonna understand there's a theme here. All of these little things, they all add up. Okay, they really do. So Acorn is an app that I use, and basically, anytime that I'm using my debit card or whatever it is, my credit card, it's taking the change every night and it's putting it into account for me. And before you realize it, you're going to see money in this account that you didn't believe that you had. I'm telling you, the first time I started using it over the last month, over the first month, I had almost $300 in there, and I was blown away. I'm like, how in the hell do I have an extra $300? Like, I'm living check to check right now, but I had an extra $300 because of this app helping to take the change that it was rounding up and putting it aside for me. It works. So again, you may have a different app that does the same thing, whatever it is, but that's the app that I use. The other thing is I started using Cash App. You guys heard me talk about Cash App earlier. Cash App helps me, it helped me to slowly start investing, looking into stocks and whatnot. I'm not a big stock guy, but I started really educating myself. I started talking to people who are into stocks, who started a long time ago and kind of were educating me on some cheaper stocks that I could buy. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm into Bitcoin. I had, a few people talk to me about Bitcoin, so I'm big on Bitcoin. And what I do there is Cash App is awesome because you don't have to have the money to buy a full, complete share. You go buy a share somewhere, like for instance, I said Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at over $60,000 right now per share. Okay. You can't buy I don't have 60 grand to buy a Bitcoin. Okay. But what I do have is 10% of my income every time I bring in some money. And I just take 10% of whatever I make for the day and I go into Cash App, and whatever that 10% is, let's say I made, $100 and it's $10 or whatever it is. I take that $10 and in Cash App, I buy a portion of Bitcoin. I take whatever that is, 10% every night that I make money or every day I make money, and I go and buy a little bit of something, whether it be Amazon, whether it be, any of these small little dollar, these penny stocks, whatever it is. But it allows you to get in the game. That's a game changer. A long time ago, you couldn't do that. You had to have the money to buy a complete share of stock, right? You don't have to do that anymore. So anyways, I started doing that with Cash App, and that's another way to start taking your money and investing it and starting to see how the stock market works, and you can actually make some money. You start to lose money, you can pull out, you can cash out, okay? So that's a great thing to get involved with. Like I said, you don't have to buy a full stock. You can actually buy a portion of a stock, which is great because if you're like me, I don't have a whole lot of money, so I like to be able to buy a percentage of a stock until I get there and I can buy a whole truckload of stock. Hopefully one day I'll get there. All right, so that's Cash App. Now I do have a Charles Schwab account, and I don't have a whole lot of money in that, but I do use it because Cash App doesn't have access to all the stocks that I'm interested in. For that, you need to go to a broker, which is Charles Schwab. I use Charles Schwab. They have an they have an app, and I log in and I created an account, created a free account, and you can invest in stocks. There you have to buy a full stock. So you can't go there and give a percentage towards a company. You have to actually have the money to buy a full stock. So there, I actually buy like penny stocks, stocks that are kind of like on the rise, that are still small companies. I'm talking about dollar stocks, $2 stocks, $3, $4, $5 stocks. Those are the stocks that I buy over there. All right. So again, that's Charles Schwab. So if you're interested in anything like that, listen, everything you hear here, guys, you can send me a DM, you can send me an email, whatever it is, if you have questions, and I'll do the best I can to help you. I'm just giving you ideas that may help you on your journey. Now, this may sound like, how does this have to do with minimalism? It has everything to do with minimalism, because what I'm telling you is you're trying to get your finances in order. You're trying to consolidate your bills and do all these things. So let's talk about, consolidating. Okay. I had a few credit cards. I do music. So I had a Guitar Center card. I had a Best Buy card. I had a Chase card. And where I went wrong was I had money on all these, and I was paying them, but I kept getting hit with the charges every month because I wasn't paying them off completely. So that's where the method of me putting money to each of these cards every time I had money coming in started to work for me. So every night, every day, whatever it is, at the end of the week, I would take 20, put it on my Best Buy card, put 20, put it on my Guitar Center card, take 20 and put it on my Chase card, and just kept putting money at these, not paying attention, just kept throwing money at them, little here, 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes 50, whatever it is, just kept throwing it at them. And before I realized it, all the cards were paid off. All right. So then the final bill that I had that was kind of big, I basically did a debt consolidation. So I got approved because my credit shot up because I paid off these other credit cards, these 3 cards. I was able to get a bigger card that had more of a limit, and I took the 2 final bills that I had that were in the thousands, and I took them and I put them on this one card that had a really good APR rate, and I said, okay, cool, now I have one bill. You understand what I'm saying? So I took these other bills that were giving me 2 other separate monthly bills on top of my rent and top of my car note, insurance, and I said, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I took those, I put them under one, got a better rate, paid those guys off. They no longer bug me anymore. And now I am paying one bill, and I've consolidated everything. And now I'm stress free. And yes, I have a bill, but it's not having 3 bills, 4 bills, 5 bills. I have one bill. All right. And it's much more manageable. So when I'm talking to you about all this stuff, yes, this still has to do with minimalism. Okay. We're trying to simplify our lives here. The other thing was this. Let's see. So let's talk about clothing. All right. So we talked about finances. We talked about, how to chip away at everything. Okay. Remember, everything's small increments. You have to chip away. It's not going to feel like you're doing anything, but I promise you, if you stay consistent, before you realize it, you will have things paid off or damn close to it, and you'll get motivated, and then you'll get close enough to where you'll be like, this next check I get, I'm just going to throw it at that card and I'm going to get out of there. You're going to feel a sense of freedom. I promise you, I felt so free when I did this. I'm telling you right now, my credit jumped almost 300 points. It actually jumped 300 points. I shouldn't say almost 300 points because I got on my game. I stayed active. I stayed consistent, and it works. So if you're listening, please understand this works. I'm talking to you from experience. Okay. Back to the clothing and whatnot. So I was hoarding my clothes, my shoes, my jackets, my hats. You name it, I just had way too much stuff that I didn't need, okay? I also had storage boxes, okay? I had the big black and with the yellow top storage boxes from Costco. I had those, and I had them filled with things that I wasn't using. I'm talking about old photos, old newspaper clippings. I'm talking about, you name it, cables that, for whatever equipment I had that I wasn't using, frames that were blank, that had no photos in it. I had all this stuff just sitting there. So I said, okay, I have to get rid of this stuff. Okay, I have to get rid of this stuff. I cannot be carrying all this stuff around. This is driving me nuts. I've got way too many things going on. So I started looking at, how am I going to get rid of this? I don't want to just give this stuff away right away. There's got to be a way to maybe give it to somebody who needs it more, but also, is there a way for me to make a little bit of money on this to also throw that money towards my debt that I have still? Okay, and there is. So here's some solutions. First and foremost, I always check with my family and my friends, because you always look out for your family, right? You want to see if they need anything. If you got something that they may need, you hit them up. You say, hey, I got this. I'm getting rid of these things. Before I put them up for sale, I want to know, do you want them? My mom loves a lot of the stuff that I used to put out musically. She likes a lot of the things that I own. I said, look, whatever you want, I'm gonna send you pictures. If you want them, let me know. I'll package them up and I'll mail them to you. My mom lives in Colorado, so I have to ship everything to her. So I did that first. Any friends that may have wanted things, I have them come pick it up. And then I got on, once that's clear, I got on OfferUp, eBay, and Facebook Marketplace. All right, started an account there, and then I started putting things up for sale. Okay, I started making money. So a lot of the stuff, I didn't realize I was sitting on stuff that I had records, you name it. I mean, and the things that you don't think people are going to buy, trust me, there's somebody that's going to buy it. There's somebody that's going to buy. I had a little desk fan that I used to have, a little metal one. I'm like, no one's going to buy this. I had an old alarm clock. I'm like, no one's going to buy this. Threw it up anyway. People bought them the minute they went up. So I'm telling you, it works. OfferUp, eBay, Facebook Marketplace. Put your stuff up. You will make some money. You're not going to try and get rich off this, but it's a way for you to get rid of your stuff, make a little money. And again, what's the goal here? Get you out of debt, get you into a place where you're financially sound and you're physically in your house. You're having some clarity now. You're starting to clean things up and you're starting to feel better about your situation. That's the goal here. So that's what you're doing. You're getting this stuff off and you're good. The other thing I do when everything's said and done, if stuff sits on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or OfferUp too long, I go to do donations. I go to either the Salvation Army or the Goodwill, and I just donate it. All right. And my final thing that I do is I do homeless drop-offs. I take my sons, we drop off jackets, hoodies, hats, socks, shoes, pants, t-shirts, you name it, gloves, beanies that I no longer wear. You name it, we go and get rid of them. I have old backpacks that I wasn't using anymore. Take those, bundle them all up, and literally drive through the city and just hit these little homeless encampments and say, hey, could you use a jacket? Could you use a hat? Could you use a blanket? Could you use this? And that was the other way to get it out of my hands. I'm not using it, and give it to somebody that could probably use it. All right. So again, all of these things I'm telling you are to help simplify your life. If you are sitting there and you are struggling with your finances, if you're struggling with just everything in your house, every time you get up, you're like, there's no place for me to relax. There's something in every corner of my house. I'm going crazy. Please put this podcast on replay. I am telling you what I just gave you was a list of things that have worked for me, and my life has not been better. Okay? I am in a much better place financially right now. I am not rich, but I am not broke, and I am on my way to building a savings for my kids. I'm building equity in other things, and I'm also in a place now where when I make money that I didn't see coming, I can take that money and go make a bigger move. We're talking real estate. We're talking things of that nature, okay? That's what the goal is. We want not to be rich. You never see me wearing watches and chains and all that stuff. We want wealth. That's what I'm shooting for. Will I get there? I pray I do. Wealth is generational, and that's what I'm shooting for, okay? Again, this is minimalism. Everything I told you, I promise you it works. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and contact me again. I'm going to tell you about the book, Minimalism, all right? That's called Live a Meaningful Life, Minimalism. And the authors are Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. theminimalist.com. Check those guys out. They are on Instagram and Facebook and all that, and check those guys out. They have a documentary on Netflix. If you're a Netflix person, they have a documentary on Netflix. If you don't like reading, at least watch the documentary, okay? Again, if you don't like reading, you should read. But if you don't like reading, do yourself a favor and watch the documentary. All right? That's all I have. I hope this helps anybody who's listening. It's definitely helped me. And hey, my life, this podcast is called The Perfect Mess. I'm telling you, my life was an absolute mess before I started practicing minimalism, okay? And that goes on to traveling, too. I used to be the guy who packed all my stuff, and I'd only be gone for 3 days. Now I have a carry-on suitcase, and that's my luggage, and I go handle my business, all right? I've really learned how to tone everything down that I do and keep everything consolidated so to make my life more manageable and easier. And trust me, being a single father, it is very, very important for me to have my life like that. Okay. Again, thank you for tuning in. This is the Perfect Mess Podcast. I am your host, Ray Molina, and this is episode 29. And I hope you have a very, very blessed day. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. It's Ray Molina, and the podcast is at The Perfect Mess Pod. My website is raymolina.com. Make sure to check it out. And again, please share, rate, subscribe, whatever it is you do. If you're on YouTube, please do the same. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Anchor, all of them. Okay. Have a very, very blessed day. Again, Perfect Mess Podcast, episode 29. Thank you. I love you guys. Peace.
Perfect mess is my perfect mess. Perfect mess is my perfect mess.